Hey guys, this is Mr. Schwartz again. Just want to continue with this concept of factoring. Before we continue on to type 2 trinomials with the GCF, I just want to review the factoring techniques that we've mentioned so far. We are building what I call the master factor plan for factoring any type of polynomial. It's really important that you know the steps that you would take to factor a polynomial, and then also the technique that you would use to help you factor it. So I'd like to just review the few that we've already have. The first thing that you guys learned was you want to always look for a GCF. Okay, and that's the greatest common factor. We know that the greatest common factor could be a monomial, where it's a number, a variable, or a product of the two. It could be a binomial, but we're always looking for a GCF, and that's the first thing you want to try given any polynomial. Now, sometimes it does have a GCF, sometimes it does not, but you also have to look to see if it does, what's left, can that be factored further? If it doesn't, then it might be prime, okay? But you have to try the other techniques that also you guys have learned so far, okay? The second one is, all right, if it has 3 terms, it could be a type 1 trinomial, okay? And that would be where A is equal to 1. And in that case, if that's the case, we would look for factors of C that add to B. So if we think of AX squared plus BX plus C as our trinomial, we would look for factors of C that add to B. Could either be a type 1 or it could be a type 2. Type 2 trinomial is going to be when A is not equal to 1. And we said we're looking for factors of A and factors of C that add to B. In other words, the technique there is really guess and check. And if you remember, we used pencil for that. One last technique that we've learned so far is, what if it has 4 terms? Okay, if it has 4 terms, we said then what we're going to do is we're going to factor by grouping. Okay, really important. We're starting to build our plan here. There are several more techniques that we're going to learn, but I wanted to review that so far, and that's what we have for factoring any polynomial. Okay, so that's what it looks like. You might want to take a screenshot of that. That's pretty good, but that would be the plan. You also have to know the techniques that we mentioned. Okay, so here we're getting back to day 2. Okay, this is day 2. Type 2 trinomials. Okay, so here's the first one. Okay, and these are going to be type 2 trinomials that I'm telling you now that do have a GCF. Yes, this does have 3 terms. The A is not, the first term does not have a leading coefficient. That's 1. So this could be looked at as a type 2, but we do notice here is that we have a GCF within 4, 2, and 30 of 2. So I'm going to factor out a 2. That leaves me with 2x squared minus x minus 15. And then what I look at here is I could see that here I have a type 2 trinomial that I'm going to try to factor further. I can't always factor it further, but I'm going to try. So here I'm going to try factors of A. That's not too bad. It's 2x and x. And I want now factors of 15. So I can do a 1 and a 15 and a 1, a 3 and a 5, and a 5 and a 3. And I'm trying to create here a negative 1. Okay, so I'm going to go to my pencil now because I'm probably going to make a mistake here. So for example, if I try a 1 and a 15, okay, I'm going to check with the outer 2 terms, which give us 30x, and the inner 2 terms, which would give us 1x. So Keep in mind we would multiply those to get 30x, multiply these to get 1x. And there's no way with 30 and 1 that I could create a negative 1. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually switch these, 15 and 1. And here I get a 2x and a 15x. 2x and 15x, there's no way of creating a negative 1 as well. So the two factors that I'm looking for 15 must be a 3 and a 5. So it's either going to be a 3 and a 5 or a 5 and a 3. And I think if I put a 5 here and a 3 here, I could see that I'm going to get 6x and 5x, and I can create a negative 1 with those numbers. Now I want my 6x to be negative, so I'm going to put a negative here, and I want my 5x to be positive, so that when I add those together, I do get negative 1. So if you take a look here, this would be fully factored. I did check it using FOIL, and I would end up having 3 factors here. A monomial, a binomial, and a binomial. And if I multiply all of these out, I should get 4x squared minus 2x minus 30. All right, let's keep cruising here. Take a look at another example. We'll get a little bit more complicated here. I do have a trinomial. A is not 1. This does look like a type 2. It doesn't matter because I always want to check for a GCF. And really going back here, we're saying type 2 trinomials with a GCF. All right, and if we go back to our review of our factoring techniques here, guys, you can see the first thing we always want to look for is a GCF. The directions aren't going to tell you. You're going to have to be mindful of that. And as we see here, we do have a GCF. The greatest number that goes into 18, 63, and 27 is 9. But this also has a variable GCF, x to the 4th, x to the 3rd, x to the 2nd. It would be x to the 2nd. So I'm going to pull out 9, x to the 2nd, and what's left is 2x squared plus 7x plus 3. Okay, and again, going back to the first lesson, this would be sufficient. We would be done. But now we're looking to put it in fully factored form by factoring this down even further. Factors of 2 are easy, 2x and x. And factors of 3 are easy. It's either going to be a 1 and a 3 or a 3 and a 1. And some of you guys, I'm sure, are starting to get the hang of this. So you should be able to see, okay, yeah, all right. If I put a 3 here and a 1 here, there's no way I can make a 7x. But if I put a 1 here and a 3 here, it gives me 6x on the outside, 1x on the inside. I can make 7 with that. I'd want a positive 6 and a positive 1. And this guy would be done. Okay. Let's keep moving here. We'll look at the last two. Okay, they're definitely a little trickier. If you think you're getting the hang of this, it's good stuff. Keep it up. Okay, the first thing we said we're always going to look for is a greatest common factor. And we said whenever our leading coefficient is negative, we're going to factor out a negative GCF. So as I take a second here and look, it looks like I can take out a negative 6x. Okay, and what would be left would be 4x squared. So 6 doesn't go into 32. So I'm going to have to break that down to a negative 2x. And see, sometimes we think we got it, and that's okay. We make a mistake, we can go back and fix it. So it looks like 6 doesn't go into 32. So now I'm going to try 2 going into all these. So negative 2x will leave us with 12x squared minus 16xy minus 3y squared. Okay, so we're going to try to take this guy down further. Notice it has x's and y's in it. Don't let that confuse you. We've seen that before. We've got an easy fix for that. I'm going to move to my pencil because I have a lot of combinations with 12. I could have a 12x and an x. I can have a 6x and a 2x, or a 4x and a 3x. And I got to try all the combinations with 3, and I'm trying to make 16. So if I try a 1 and a 3, that would give me 36 and 1. That's not going to work. If I try a 3 and a 1, that would give me 12x and 3x. That's not going to work. So now I'm going to move down to a 6x and a 2x. So I'll try a 1 and a 3. That gives me 18 and 2. And I like that because that I can create a negative 16. Okay. Only thing I'm going to want to keep in mind is I want to have y's here. So I'm going to have 1y here, 3y here, and now I want to create a negative 18 and a positive 2. Okay, and that would be our final answer. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with number 10 to try. Okay, part of your homework is going to be able to finish this sheet here. I'll post that on YouTube. I'll post that on Google Classroom. That'll be part of your homework, 1 through 6, as well as 10. And I'll post the second part, part 2 as well, but this will be part 1 so you guys know. All right, best of luck. Hang in there. You guys are doing a great job, and we'll keep cruising with this idea of factoring. All right, it's Mr. Schwartz signing off. Have a great day. See you guys.